Hello, welcome to the homework walkthrough video for 6.02a, Independent Practice, Appropriate Measures of Center. Appropriate measures of center. Let's see how many questions we got. 6. Sweet. We can do 6 questions. We can totally do 6 questions. All right, question 1. Julian's basketball team played 13 games this season. The histogram shows how many points were scored in each game. All right. So, okay. Wow. Either they scored. Okay, so I guess that's like they scored a weird histogram. It's like between 8 and whatever this number is, there were 4 games. So that's some low scoring games for basketball, I guess. Based on the plot, determine the most appropriate measure of center and why. The most appropriate measure of center for the data set is because there's okay, so we're looking for an outlier. Yep, there is an outlier. So the data does contain an outlier. And we've learned before that mean is really affected by an outlier. Median is not really affected by an outlier. So when there is an outlier, median is a better measure of center. Let's check. Woohoo! Okay, question 2. Mr. Pumphrey records the height of each of his 7th grade students and creates a box plot. Okay. I think we're missing. Okay, unless. All right. Doesn't. So box plot. This is the max. This is the middle number. I guess this is quartile 3, so the middle of the upper half. And then this is the middle of the lower half and the lower half. So I guess that means there's a lot of people who are 54 inches tall. Again, it's a weird graph here. But determine the best measure of center based on that data. Since the data appears either skewed or symmetrical, the mean or median is the most appropriate. So it does not appear symmetrical, right? Symmetrical is when, if you can cut it in the middle, it'll be the same on both sides. So like a circle is symmetrical. A triangle is symmetrical. But some lumpy, weird rock, no, not symmetrical. This, not symmetrical, because there's no whisker on the other side of this box plot, so it looks skewed. And mean is the best measure of center, except when your data is weird. Then I think it's median. But we'll see if I'm wrong. Question 2. What? Okay. So my reasons are right, but I guess the question 2, I guess this is symmetrical. Maybe there's different pictures, or maybe my picture has a bug. Doesn't really look symmetrical to me. Because we don't got a whisker. But if it is symmetrical, then that means mean is the correct answer. Disagree. Okay, maybe it's random. Then maybe they're random box plots, because yeah. So if it is symmetrical, that means it's mean. If it's not symmetrical, it's not mean. Mean is great. Mean is the best measure of center when it's like when your data is perfect. If your data is not perfect, we don't use mean. Then we use median. But I guess this is perfect somehow. All right, Trina and her family are at Universal Studios. She records different wait times of the different rides and plots them on the data. So, okay, so number of rides. So that means I see here 4 rides, waited 30 minutes, 1 ride, waited 50 minutes, 2 rides, waited 20 minutes. Okay, complete the following statement based on the data represented in the line plot. It's a dot plot, not line plot. The most appropriate measure of center to represent the ride wait times is, because the data appears to be skewed, fairly symmetrical. I would say this data is fairly symmetrical. No, it's going to be so silly if it's not. Mean is the best measure of center, always, except when your data isn't normal. So if there's an outlier, if your data is skewed to one side or the other, then mean does not work, then median. But since it looks symmetrical, I think then we use mean. But if I'm wrong, that means it's not. Okay, I'm right. Good. So I think it's symmetrical. If it is symmetrical, then we use mean. Question 4. The data set shows the number of tickets sold at a local amusement park for 12 days. Which value in the set is considered an outlier? Let's see, 200, 200, 200, 200, 200, 100, but it's almost 200. 300, mid 300s, 300s, almost 300, 300, 300, 700. That's my outlier. Definitely, the most appropriate measure of center would be, because the data is symmetrical. The data seems symmetrical, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 1, 2, 3, 4. So I got 5 200 numbers, 4 300 numbers, 1 that number. So it looks, I think it's symmetrical. That's what I think. It'd be better if I could have plotted this on like a chart. And if I get it wrong, then that's what we'll do. If data is symmetrical, then we use mean. Mean is the best measure of center. Finding the average is always the best way to find the typical amount. But if your data is wonky, if there's an outlier, if your data is skewed to one side or the other, like if all the numbers were low, then we'd use mean or median. But since it's normal looking, I think, no, wait. No, we wouldn't use mean because there's an outlier. So I guess it's not symmetrical then because there's an outlier. That's okay. I think that question should be about outliers, but I guess it's not. So since there's an outlier, we use median. Whoa, I almost got the question wrong. Since there's an outlier, we use median, but yeah. And I guess because there's an outlier, that makes it skewed. All right, question 5, multiple choice. When is the mean considered to be the most appropriate measure of center to describe a data set? When is mean the most appropriate? When is mean the most appropriate? When is finding the average good? When all the values in the data are the same? No. So if everyone was 6 feet tall, what's the average? No, that sounds so silly. When there are extreme values or outliers. Nope. When there are outliers, then we use median, not mean. When there are an even amount of values in the data set, that doesn't matter. We could have 10 numbers, 9 numbers, 17 numbers, and we could still use the mean, so that sounds wrong. When there are no extreme values or outliers. Okay, I think that, yep, when your data is almost perfect looking, then you use mean, because mean is best, but it only works if your data is perfect. Right, let's see. Yay, question 6. The high temperatures for a 2-week period are listed in the given data set. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. Oh, 2 weeks. So 14 numbers, because 7 times 2 is 14. Got it. Why would the mean be an appropriate measure of center to use to describe the data? Why would mean be appropriate? There is an extreme outlier. Well, no. One, there's not an extreme outlier. Two, if there is an outlier, then we would use median. So not A. There is not an extreme outlier. There is not an extreme outlier. So I'm going to click that button. I'm going to keep reading. There is no median, so the mean must be used. Nope. There is always a median. I think this means because there's two middle numbers and not one middle number, but we know even if there's two middle numbers, we can still find the median. So not C, the mean is not the most appropriate measure to use. Why would the mean be appropriate? It would not be appropriate. No, I think it would be because there's no outlier in the data. It looks kind of even. There's 60s, 50s, 70s. So I think it's B is our answer. But we have lots of tries too. Yeah, I got it correct. All right, if you need more help with this homework, make sure to send me a Canvas message, and I would love to help you however I can. Good luck.